The corridors of Luminara 7 were dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. Day moved carefully, his rifle ready, with Jin and Tae close behind. Their boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The station was designed for Quillen, which meant everything was slightly wrong for humans. The ceilings were lower, the doorways narrower, the air thinner than Earth normal. But Day and his crew adjusted without thinking. They had trained in dozens of different environments. Through his earpiece, Hana's voice crackled. "Captain, I'm reading life signs in the central research area. That's where the Quillen should be. But there are also multiple contacts near the docking bay, probably the Varkan." "Understood," Day whispered back. "We'll approach carefully." They turned a corner and froze. 3 Varkan raiders stood at the end of the hallway, their backs turned. They were big creatures, maybe 7 feet tall, with thick gray skin that looked like natural armor. They wore simple combat gear and carried energy weapons that glowed with a dull orange light. The Varkan were talking in their rough language, their voices deep and harsh. They seemed relaxed, confident. Why wouldn't they be? They thought they were alone on this station with defenseless Quillen scientists. Jin raised his weapon slowly, aiming carefully. Day put a hand on his shoulder and shook his head. They needed to try talking first. Day stepped forward and spoke clearly. "Drop your weapons, leave the station peacefully, and nobody gets hurt." The Varkans spun around, their weapons coming up. Then they saw the humans, and something unexpected happened. Their eyes went wide. One of them made a sound that might have been fear. "Humans." "One," Varkan breathed, his voice shaking. "Class 1-2. Another whispered. "Deathworlders," the third said, and Day could hear the terror in his voice. For a moment, nobody moved. The Varkans stared at the humans like they had seen ghosts. Their weapons shook in their hands. Then one Varkan panicked and fired. The energy bolt went wild, hitting the wall far above Day's head. Jin reacted instantly, diving to the side with speed that seemed impossible. His body moved with the reflexes of a predator species, evolved on a world where slow meant dead. Tae dropped flat to the floor, his own weapon coming up. Day stepped forward, not back, moving toward the threat instead of away from it. It was pure human instinct, the aggression of a species that had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain by refusing to run. The Varkan broke. They turned and ran, their heavy footsteps echoing through the corridor. One dropped his weapon in his panic. Another was shouting something in his language that sounded like a warning. Jin stood up slowly, watching the raiders disappear around a corner. "Well, that was interesting. They were terrified," Tae said, his voice full of disbelief. "Did you see their faces?" Day nodded slowly. He had seen it. The Varkan were warriors, raiders who had probably attacked dozens of ships and stations. But when they saw humans, they ran like frightened children. "Jin was right," Day said. "The stories about us have spread. They know what Earth is like. They know what made us." "Should we go after them?" Jin asked. "No. Let them spread the word. Maybe the others will leave too." Day turned toward the research area. "Come on. The Quillen are our priority." They moved deeper into the station. Twice more they encountered Varkan, and twice more the raiders fled at the sight of humans. One dropped his weapon and ran without even being threatened. The other actually screamed before disappearing down a side corridor. Tae shook his head in amazement. "I always thought we were just normal, you know? But to them, we're monsters." "We're not monsters," Day said firmly. "We're just from a harder world than most." Through his earpiece, Hana's voice came through with urgency. "Captain, I'm picking up communications between the Varkan ships. They're talking about humans on the station. Their leader, someone called Warlord Kret, wants to know if it's true." "What are they saying?" Day asked. "They're scared, Captain," one of them said. "The stories are true. They move like hunters. They don't feel fear." Another one said, "We need to leave before they kill us all." Day felt strange hearing this. He was afraid. His heart was pounding. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. He was just a man, doing what he thought was right. But to the Varkin, he was something from their worst nightmares. They reached the research area. The door was sealed with a heavy lock. Varkin security, not Quillen design. Tay examined it carefully. "Can you open it?" Day asked. Tay smiled. "Captain, I've worked on ships from 6 different species. This is simple." He pulled out his tools and began working. His fingers moved with the precision that came from years of practice, solving problems that would stump most beings in the galaxy. While Tay worked, Jin kept watch. His eyes never stopped moving, scanning every shadow, every doorway. He had the alertness of a species that evolved alongside predators, always watching for danger. "Almost got it," Tay muttered. "Just need to." There. The lock clicked open. The door slid aside with a hiss of escaping air. Beyond it was a large room filled with scientific equipment, and huddled in the far corner, clustered together like frightened birds, were the Quillen. They were small creatures, maybe 4 feet tall, with large eyes and delicate limbs. Their skin was pale blue, and they wore simple robes. When they saw the humans, they made soft sounds of fear. Day slowly lowered his weapon and removed his helmet. He tried to make his expression gentle. "We're here to help. We received your distress call." The Quillen stared at him in confusion. One of them, older than the others, with silver markings on his robes, stepped forward cautiously. You are human?" the Quillen asked, in accented, but clear, standard language. "Yes, I'm Captain Day. This is Jin and Tay. We have 2 more crew members on our ship, Hana and Yuna. Only 5? The Quillen looked even more confused. 5 humans? Came to fight? The Varkin? "We came to rescue you," Day corrected. "Fighting is only if we must." The older Quillen Day guessed he was their leader seemed to struggle with this concept. "But you are from Earth. A Class 1-2 death world." "We thought. We heard." "You heard we're dangerous," Jin said quietly. "We can be, but we choose not to be." Another Quillen spoke up, his voice weak. "Please, help us. The gravity." They increased it. "We cannot move properly. Several of us are injured." Day looked around and realized what the Quillen meant. The gravity in this room felt normal to him, exactly like Earth standard. But for the Quillen, evolved on a world with much lower gravity, this must be crushing. Just standing up was probably painful for them. "Yuna," Day spoke into his comm. "Get to the research area immediately. Medical emergency. Multiple Quillen, injured from high gravity exposure." "Comm. On my way, Captain." Yuna's voice came back instantly. Day turned to the Quillen leader. "Help is coming. Our medic will take care of your people." "How many Varkin are left on the station?" I am not certain. Perhaps 20? Their leader, Warlord Kret, is in the command center. He took 3 of our people as hostages." Day's expression hardened. Hostages changed everything. He looked at Jin, who nodded understanding. "Tay, stay here and help Yuna when she arrives," Day ordered. "Jin, you're with me. We're going to have a talk with this warlord." The older Quillen reached out with one delicate hand, touching Day's arm. "Please be careful. The Varkin are dangerous warriors." Day gave him a small, grim smile. "So are we." As he and Jin left the research area, heading toward the command center, Day heard the Quillen whispering behind him. "Did you see how they moved in this gravity? Like it was nothing. What kind of world makes creatures like that?" Day didn't have an answer. He just knew that Earth had made them, and now the Varkin were about to learn what that meant. The alarm blared through the bridge of the resilient dawn, cutting through the quiet hum of deep space. Captain Day looked up from his reports, his dark eyes sharp and alert. The sound meant only one thing: someone was calling for help. "What do we have, Hana?" Day asked, moving toward the pilot's station. Hana's fingers danced across the controls, her face lit by the blue glow of multiple screens. "It's a distress signal, Captain. Coming from Luminara 7, about 6 hours away at full speed." "Luminara 7? That's a Quillen research station, isn't it?" Tay spoke up from the engineering console. He was younger than the rest of the crew, but his skills with machines were unmatched. "Yes," Hana confirmed. "The message is fragmented, but I'm picking up words like hostile, trapped, and life support failing." Day felt his stomach tighten. The Quillen were peaceful researchers, scientists who spent their lives studying stars and planets. They had no military, no weapons, no way to defend themselves. Their home world had low gravity and almost no predators. Evolution had made them smart but fragile. "How far out are the nearest coalition forces?" Day asked. Hana checked her screens again. 3 weeks minimum, Captain." "Maybe 4. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. By the time help arrived, the Quillen would be dead. Jin walked onto the bridge, his security uniform neat as always. He was the tallest member of the crew, with broad shoulders and calm eyes. "I heard the alarm. What's happening?" Day explained the situation quickly. When he finished, Jin's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He didn't need to. They all knew what the captain would decide. "Yuna, report to the bridge." Day spoke into the comm system. A minute later, their medic arrived. Yuna was small and quick, with gentle hands that had saved more lives than Day could count. She looked around at the serious faces and understood immediately. "We're going to help them, aren't we?" she asked. Day nodded slowly. "This ship isn't a warship. We're explorers, researchers, but we're the only ones close enough to make a difference." He paused, looking at each crew member in turn. "I won't order anyone to risk their lives. This is volunteer only." Tay was the first to speak. "I'm in, Captain." "Me too," Hana said, without hesitation. "Of course I'm going," Yuna added. Jin simply nodded, his hand resting on the weapon at his belt. Day felt pride warm his chest. This was why he loved his crew. "Then let's get moving. Hana, set course for Luminara 7, maximum speed. Tay, I need you to check all our systems. If we're walking into trouble, I want this ship ready for anything." "On it, Captain," Tay said, already moving toward the engine room. "Jin, inventory our weapons and equipment. Whatever we have, make sure it's ready." "Yes, sir." "Yuna, prepare the medical bay for potential casualties. We don't know what condition the Quillen will be in." 2. As the crew scattered to their tasks, Day pulled up everything he could find about Luminara 7. The station housed 17 Quillen scientists studying cosmic radiation. It had minimal security, just basic locks and alarms. The Quillen never expected trouble. Why would they? The galaxy was mostly peaceful. Hours passed as the resilient dawn raced through space. Day called a meeting in the common area. His crew gathered around the table, their faces tired but determined. "I've been researching who might attack a Quillen station," Day began. "The most likely culprits are Varkan raiders." "Varkan?" Yuna asked. "I've heard of them. Aren't they pirates?" "Pirates, salvagers, raiders, they're all of those things," Jin explained. "They come from a high-gravity world. Strong, tough, with natural armor. They see the Quillen as easy targets." Tay frowned. "How many ships will they have?" "Probably 2 or 3, Day said. "Small raiding parties. They're after the station's research data and equipment." "Can we fight them?" Hana asked. Day considered this carefully. "We have standard weapons, nothing military grade. But we have surprise on our side. They won't expect anyone to respond to the distress call this quickly. There's something else," Jin said quietly. "The Varkan have heard stories about humans. About Earth." Everyone looked at him. What kind of stories? Yuna asked. Earth is classified as a Class 1-2 death world in the galactic databases, Jin explained. The highest danger rating. Most species don't understand how anything could evolve there and survive. The stories say that humans can endure injuries that would kill other species. That we feel pain, but ignore it. That we hunt predators on our own world for fun. Tay laughed nervously. That makes us sound like monsters. To them, we might be, Jin said seriously. The Varkan are considered tough warriors by galactic standards, but they evolved on a world much gentler than Earth. If they realize humans are coming, they might panic. Day absorbed this information. He had always known Earth was unusual. The gravity was high, the weather was violent, diseases and predators were everywhere. Humans had survived by becoming adaptable, stubborn, and smart. But he had never thought of his species as frightening. We'll use that to our advantage if we can, Day decided. But remember, we're here to save lives, not take them. We fight only if we must. The crew nodded in agreement. 2 hours from Luminara 7, Hana spotted the Varkan ships on her sensors. 3 vessels, just as Day had predicted, attached to the station like ticks on an animal. Take us in quietly, Day ordered. Use the auxiliary port on the far side. They won't be monitoring it. Hana's fingers flew over the controls. The resilient Dawn moved like a shadow, silent and invisible to the Raiders' basic sensors. She brought them alongside the station with perfect precision, barely a whisper of engine thrust. The docking clamps engaged with a soft click. Day stood and picked up his weapon, a simple kinetic rifle, crude by galactic standards but reliable. Jin, Tay, you're with me. Hana, Yuna, stay here and monitor the situation. Be ready to move if we need emergency evacuation. Be careful. Yuna said softly. Day gave her a small smile. Always am. The airlock opened with a hiss. Beyond it lay the dark corridors of Luminara 7. Somewhere in that station, 17 frightened scientists waited for help they didn't believe would come. Day stepped forward, his crew behind him. They had come a long way to answer a desperate call. The rescue mission had begun. Yuna arrived at the research area carrying 2 large medical bags. She moved quickly through the increased gravity, her Earth-trained muscles handling the weight easily. When she saw the Quillen huddled together, her expression softened immediately. Hello, she said gently, kneeling down to their level. I'm Yuna. I'm here to help. The Quillen stared at her with those large eyes. Tay had already explained the situation, but seeing a human medic move so easily in gravity that crushed them was something else entirely. The older Quillen he had introduced himself as Elder Thel gestured toward 2 of his people lying on the floor. These 2 are worst. They tried to move when the gravity first increased. Their bones. Worst, they are broken. Yuna moved to them quickly. She pulled out her scanner and ran it over the first Quillen's body. The device beeped softly, showing her the damage. Broken ribs, fractured leg, internal bruising. For a human, these would be serious but survivable injuries. For a Quillen, they could be fatal. Tay, I need you to help me, Yuna said. Hold this one steady while I set the bone. Tay knelt beside her, his large human hands holding the delicate Quillen with surprising gentleness. Yuna worked quickly, her training guiding her movements. She had studied alien medicine, learned the differences in biology, practiced on simulations. But this was real, and she could feel the Quillen trembling under her touch. It's okay, she whispered. I know it hurts, but you're going to be fine. The Quillen made a soft sound. Yuna wasn't sure if it was agreement or just pain. She finished setting the bone and wrapped it carefully in a medical brace designed to adjust to different body types. As she moved to the second injured Quillen, Elder Thel watched her work with fascination. You move so carefully, he said. Your hands are strong enough to break us, yet you are so gentle. End quote. Yuna smiled sadly. On Earth, we have many small and fragile creatures. Birds, insects, small animals. We learn early how to be gentle when we need to be. And yet you also learn violence, Thel said. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. Yes, Yuna admitted. Earth taught us both. How to fight and how to care. How to survive and how to protect. Meanwhile, Day and Jin approached the command center. They could hear voices inside. Varkin voices, rough and nervous. And one other voice, deeper and commanding. That would be Warlord Kret. Day stopped outside the sealed door. He could force it open, but that would start a fight. Better to try talking first. Warlord Kret, Day called out. This is Captain Day, of the human vessel Resilient Dawn. We need to talk. Silence. Then the deep voice answered, Humans. So the stories are true. You actually came. We came for the Quillen, Day said. Let the hostages go. Leave this station peacefully. Nobody needs to die today. A harsh laugh echoed from inside. Why would I leave? I have hostages. I have the station's data. And I have 20 warriors. You had 20 warriors, Jin said quietly. Now you have 12. 8 of them ran when they saw us. 2 are wounded. More silence. Day could imagine Kret checking his communications, confirming what Jin said. When the warlord spoke again, his voice was less confident. You are bluffing. Am I? Day kept his voice calm, almost casual. Ask your warriors. Ask them what they saw. Ask them why they ran. Through the door, they heard Kret talking in the Varkin language. Then angry shouting. Then what sounded like fear. Your warriors are scared, Warlord, Day continued. They know what Earth is. They know what made us. Do you? I know the stories, Kret said. His voice was trying to sound brave, but Day could hear the uncertainty underneath. I know you come from a death world. That you are strong and tough. But stories can be exaggerated. Can they? Jin asked. He pulled a small knife from his belt and, without hesitation, cut across his own palm. Blood welled up, red and bright. Hana, show them the medical feed. Hana, still on the Resilient Dawn, hacked into the station's systems. The monitors in the command center suddenly showed Jin's hand, bleeding but steady. On Earth, Jin said calmly, ignoring the pain. This is called a minor injury. It will heal in a few days. Our blood clots quickly. Our nerves can be ignored. Our bodies repair themselves. He wrapped the cut quickly with a bandage. We evolved on a world where injuries like this happened every day. So we learned to keep fighting through pain. Inside the command center, the Varkin were very quiet. Day spoke again, his voice harder now. We didn't come here to fight you, Warlord Kret. We came to save innocent people. But if you force us to fight, you will lose. Not because we're better warriors, but because we're more stubborn, more willing to endure pain, more willing to do whatever it takes. We will hunt you through this station, Jin added, his voice cold. We will not stop. We will not tire. We will not quit. That's what Deathworlders do. Day let that sink in, then softened his tone. But it doesn't have to be that way. Release the hostages. Take your ships and go. Live to raid another day. There's no shame in avoiding a fight you can't win. Long minutes passed. Day could hear arguing inside. Varkin voices raised in debate. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to run. Fear was spreading through them like poison. Finally, Kret spoke. If we release the hostages, you will let us leave? You have my word, Day said. As long as you don't harm anyone else. How do I know you will keep your word? Because we're human, Day said simply. We came across dangerous space to help strangers. We risked our lives for people we've never met. Why would we lie now? Another long pause. Then the door opened. 3 Quillen stumbled out, their eyes wide with fear. Behind them, visible through the doorway, Day could see the Varkan warriors. They looked at the humans with expressions that mixed fear and something like respect. Warlord Kret stepped forward. He was bigger than his warriors, with scars across his armored skin. But his eyes were cautious. Measuring. "You are strange creatures," Kret said. "The galaxy says humans are dangerous, but you offer mercy." "Danger and mercy aren't opposites," Day replied. "We choose when to use each one." Kret nodded slowly, as if understanding something new. "Very well, human. We will leave. But know this, the word will spread. About how 5 humans faced down Varkan raiders. About how the Deathworlders came to save the weak. Let it spread," Jin said. "Maybe next time. Raiders will think twice before attacking peaceful scientists." The Varkan gathered their wounded and left, moving quickly toward their ships. Day and Jin escorted the 3 freed Quillen back to the research area, where Yuna was still treating the injured. Elder Thel looked up as they entered. His large eyes were filled with wonder. You saved us. All of you. 5 humans, against an army of Varkan." "It wasn't an army," Day said modestly. "Just raiders. But they are fearsome warriors," Thel insisted. "And you made them flee with just words and reputation." Tay laughed softly. "That's because they've heard the stories about Earth, about how hard life is there, about what it takes to survive." "Are the stories true?" a young Quillen asked. His name was Syl, and he looked at the humans with a mix of fear and fascination. Yuna paused in her medical work. "Some of them, yes. Earth is a hard world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous animals, deadly diseases. Every generation of humans had to fight just to stay alive." "Then why do you help us?" Syl asked. "If your world made you so strong, so dangerous, why not use that strength to take what you want?" Yuna smiled gently. "Because Earth also taught us something else. It taught us that survival is easier when you work together, when you protect the weak instead of exploiting them, when you build communities instead of just taking from others. Your world made you strong," Elder Thel said softly. "But you chose to be kind. That is remarkable." Outside the station, the Varkan ships disengaged and flew away. On the Resilient Dawn's sensors, Hana watched them go, her expression thoughtful. "Captain," she said over the comm, "the Varkan are broadcasting a message on the open channels. They're warning other raiders to avoid any station or ship if humans are nearby." Day smiled. "Good. Maybe that will save lives." He looked around at the Quillen 17 fragile beings who had been sure they would die, now safe because 5 humans had decided to help. This was why humanity explored space. Not to conquer or dominate, but to make the galaxy a little bit safer, a little bit better, even if it meant being called Deathworlders. The peace lasted exactly 12 minutes. Day was helping Elder Thel review the damage to the station when the explosion hit. The entire structure shook violently. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red emergency lights flooded the research area. "What happened?" Thel cried out, his delicate hands gripping Day's arm. Hana's voice came through the comm, tight with urgency. "Captain, the Varkans sabotaged the main reactor before they left. The cooling system is failing. We have maybe 20 minutes before the whole station goes critical." Day cursed under his breath. He should have expected this. The Varkan wouldn't leave without one last act of spite. "Can we evacuate everyone to the Resilient Dawn in 20 minutes? He asked. "Not safely," Hana replied. "The docking port is on the opposite side of the station. With the Quillen's limited mobility in this gravity, it would take at least 30 minutes to get everyone there. Then we fix the reactor," Tay said, already moving toward the door. "Tay, wait," Yuna called out. "The reactor area will be flooding with radiation. The safety systems are probably down." Tay paused but didn't turn around. "I know," The radiation levels will kill Aquilin in seconds, Elder Thel said, his voice shaking. Even with protective gear, our species cannot survive such exposure. I'm not Quillen, Tay said simply. He looked at Day. Captain, I need to try. Day wanted to say no. Wanted to order Tay to stand down. But he knew the engineer was right. If they didn't fix the reactor, everyone would die. The Quillen couldn't do it. Only a human could survive long enough to even attempt the repairs. Do it, Day said. But Tay, you be careful. If it's too dangerous, you pull back immediately. That's an order. Tay nodded and ran. Jin went with him, carrying emergency repair equipment. Day watched them go, his stomach tight with worry. Your crew member is going to face radiation that would kill him? Syl asked, his young voice confused. Might kill him, Yuna corrected. Humans are resistant to radiation. More than most species. Our planet has higher background radiation than most worlds. Our cells have stronger repair mechanisms. It doesn't make us immune, but it gives us a chance. Why would he take such a risk for us? Thel asked. Day looked at the elder Quillen and spoke honestly. Because it's the right thing to do. Because you need help. Because we're here. And we can try. That's enough reason for humans. Tay and Jin reached the reactor chamber. The door was buckled from the explosion, barely hanging on its hinges. Warning symbols flashed on every surface radiation. Extreme heat. Structural damage. This is insane, Jin said. But he was already pulling on a radiation suit. Completely, Tay agreed, doing the same. The suits were designed for emergency use. Rated for moderate radiation exposure. They would provide some protection, but not enough. Not for what they were about to do. They entered the chamber. The heat hit them immediately, like walking into a furnace. Radiation alarms screamed. The suit's monitors showed dangerous levels yellow, then orange, climbing toward red. Talk to me, Tay. Day's voice came through their helmets. What do you see? Tay scanned the reactor quickly, his engineer's mind processing the damage. The Varkin destroyed 3 of the primary cooling conduits. The reactor is overheating. If I can bypass the damaged sections and reroute coolant through the secondary system, we might stabilize it. How long will that take? Tay did quick calculations in his head. 8 minutes. Maybe 10. Your radiation exposure is already in the danger zone, Yuna's voice cut in. At this level, you'll start experiencing tissue damage in 5 minutes. Then I better work fast, Tay said. He moved to the first damaged conduit. Tools already in hand. Jin positioned himself to assist, holding equipment, providing light, watching the monitors. The radiation levels continued to climb. Jin could feel it now, a strange tingling on his skin, a faint taste of metal in his mouth. His body was absorbing radiation that would have killed Aquilin instantly. Conduit 1 bypassed, Tay reported. His hands were steady despite the heat. Moving to Conduit 2, the second conduit was harder to reach, positioned behind a section of collapsed equipment. Tay had to squeeze through a gap barely wide enough for his shoulders. The radiation was stronger here, closer to the reactor core. Tay, your exposure is critical, Yuna warned. You need to get out. Almost there, Tay grunted, working frantically. Sweat poured down his face inside the helmet. His muscles ached from the heat and strain, but his hands kept moving, connecting wires, sealing joints, rerouting the flow of coolant. On the resilient dawn, Hana monitored the station's systems. The radiation readings for Tay and Jin made her stomach clench. But she also saw what the Quillen couldn't, the subtle ways the humans' bodies were fighting back. Their cell repair systems activating, their immune responses kicking in, their metabolisms shifting to damage control mode. It wasn't perfect. They would be sick later. There would be consequences. But they would live. Aquilin would already be dying. Conduit 2 done, Tay gasped. Last one. The third conduit was the worst. It required Tay to work directly next to the reactor core, where the radiation was highest. Jin tried to position himself between Tae and the worst of the exposure, using his own body as a shield. Jin, move, Tae said. No point both of us taking the full dose. Shut up and work, Jin replied. In the research area, the Quillen watched the monitors Hana had patched through. They could see the radiation levels. See the two humans working in conditions that should be impossible. Elder Thel's hands trembled. They will die for us, he whispered. They know the risk. And they do it anyway. That's what humans do, Day said quietly. His fists were clenched, helpless to do anything but watch. We protect people who need protecting, even if it costs us. Tae's hands were shaking now. The radiation was affecting him, breaking down his cells faster than they could repair. He could feel himself getting weaker. But he was so close, just a few more connections. Come on, he muttered to himself. Come on, come on. The last seal clicked into place. Tae activated the bypass. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the coolant began flowing through the new pathways. The reactor temperature started dropping. It's working, Hana's voice was full of relief. The reactor is stabilizing. Tae allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before Jin grabbed his arm. Time to go. Now. They stumbled out of the reactor chamber, their legs weak. The moment they cleared the door, they collapsed. Yuna was there immediately, her medical scanner already out. Get these suits off them, she ordered. Day helped her strip away the contaminated gear. Underneath, both men's skin was red, like a bad sunburn. Their breathing was labored. How bad? Day asked. Yuna's scanner beeped rapidly as it analyzed their condition. Bad, but survivable. Acute radiation syndrome, but not lethal levels. They'll be sick for a few days. Nausea, fatigue, maybe some hair loss. But their bodies are already fighting back. They'll recover. We saved them? Tae asked weakly. You saved them, Day confirmed. The station is stable. Everyone's going to be okay. Tae smiled and closed his eyes. The Quillen gathered around, staring at the two humans who had walked through death to save them. Syl reached out carefully and touched Tae's hand. It was still hot from the radiation exposure. I don't understand, Syl said. Why can you survive this? What kind of world makes this possible? Yuna began treating Tae and Jin with anti-radiation medications. Earth has more radiation than most worlds, she explained. From the sun, from rocks, from space, humans evolved with it. Our DNA repair is more aggressive, our immune system's stronger. Every generation, the humans who survived were the ones who could handle damage and keep going. So suffering made you strong, Thel said. No, Day corrected. Surviving made us strong. There's a difference. We didn't choose to suffer, but we chose to survive. We chose to adapt. We chose to become the kind of species that wouldn't give up. And now you use that strength to help others, Thel said, understanding dawning in his large eyes. What else would we use it for? Yuna asked simply. Over the next hour, the crew of the Resilient Dawn helped stabilize Luminara 7. Hana restored power to critical systems. Day coordinated repairs with the recovering Quillen. Yuna treated everyone's injuries. Jin, despite his radiation exposure, insisted on helping secure the damaged sections of the station. Elder Thel worked alongside them, watching these impossible creatures from their death world. He saw how they moved with purpose, how they solved problems creatively, how they endured discomfort without complaining, how they helped each other and the Quillen equally. Captain Day, Thel said as they worked, I must tell you something. Before today, we Quillen feared humans. The stories made you sound like monsters, creatures of violence and destruction. And now? Day asked. Thel looked at Tae and Jin, recovering from radiation exposure. At Yuna, still treating Quillen injuries despite her own exhaustion. At Hana, coordinating rescue efforts. At Day himself, who had risked everything for strangers. Now I understand, Thel said. Your world made you dangerous. But you chose to be kind. That choice. That is what makes you remarkable. 3 days later, the resilient Dawn approached Coalition Station Harmony, a massive structure that served as a hub for dozens of species. Elder Thel and his fellow Quillen scientists were aboard, recovering from their ordeal. Tay and Jin were also recovering, spending most of their time in the medical bay as their bodies fought off the radiation damage. We'll be docking in 10 minutes, Hana announced from the pilot seat. Through the view screen, the station grew larger, its lights twinkling like stars. Day stood on the bridge, feeling the weight of the past few days. They had saved 17 lives. They had driven off raiders. They had prevented a reactor meltdown. But they had also exposed themselves to danger that still made his stomach tight when he thought about it. Captain, Yuna said softly, approaching him. The Quillen want to speak with you before we dock. Day nodded and made his way to the common area. All 17 Quillen were there, including Elder Thel. They had regained some of their strength, though they still moved carefully in the ship's Earth-normal gravity. Captain Day, Thel began, his voice formal. We wanted to thank you and your crew properly before we part ways. You saved our lives at great risk to yourselves. We owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid. You don't owe us anything, Day said. We did what anyone should do. We helped people in trouble. But that is precisely the point, Thel replied. Not anyone would do what you did. The Coalition military was weeks away. Other ships ignored our distress call or deemed it too dangerous. Only you came. Only humans. Syl, the young Quillen, stepped forward. He looked up at Day with those large, intelligent eyes. I have been studying Earth since we were rescued. I have read about your history, your biology, your evolution. And I have a question. Ask, Day said. Your world tried to kill you for millions of years. Predators, diseases, disasters. Climate changes. Everything on Earth was hostile to your survival. You should have become violent, cruel, selfish, taking what you need and destroying what threatens you. But you didn't. Why? Why? Day considered the question carefully. It was something he had never really thought about before. I think, because surviving alone is harder than surviving together. Yes, Earth was dangerous, but humans who worked together survived better than humans who fought each other. We learned that protecting the weak makes the whole group stronger, that sharing knowledge helps everyone, that mercy and compassion aren't weaknesses, they're survival strategies. End quote. Max signed. So your strength comes from cooperation, not just from your harsh world, Thel said. Exactly, Day replied. Earth made our bodies tough, but we made our spirits kind. That was our choice. The docking procedure completed smoothly. As the airlocks opened, a delegation from the Coalition Council was waiting. They were a mixed group, tall Vexians with their feathered crests, crystalline Lithans that glowed softly, aquatic Delphians in their mobile water tanks, and others. At the head of the delegation was Council Speaker Vorn, a Vexian with silver-tipped feathers that indicated great age and wisdom. His eyes widened when he saw the humans. So it is true, Vorn said. Humans responded to the Quillen distress call. We did, Day confirmed. And you faced Varkan raiders? We did. And you survived reactor radiation to save the station? We did what was necessary. Vorn studied Day for a long moment. Then he turned to Elder Thel. Tell us what happened, Elder. Leave nothing out. For the next hour, in a large conference room, Thel told the story. He described the Varkan attack, the terror of being trapped, the certainty that they would die. He described the arrival of the resilient Dawn, 5 humans who came when no one else would. He told them how the Varkan fled at the sight of humans, how Day negotiated with Warlord Kret, using only words and reputation, how Yuna treated injuries with impossible gentleness, how Tay walked through lethal radiation to save them all. But what impressed me most, Thel concluded, was not their strength or endurance. It was their choice. These Deathworlders could have ignored our call. They could have demanded payment. They could have used their fearsome reputation to dominate us. But they didn't. They helped because it was right. They showed us that the most dangerous species in the galaxy can also be the most compassionate. The council chamber was silent. Finally, a Lithian council member spoke, its voice like chiming crystals. We have heard stories of Earth, of its high gravity, its violent weather, its deadly biology. We classified it as Class 1-2 Death World, the highest danger rating. We feared humans because we thought such a world would create monsters. We were wrong, Vorn added. A harsh world created survivors. But those survivors chose to be heroes. Jin, who had insisted on attending despite his recovery, spoke up. We're not heroes. We're just people who saw someone in trouble and decided to help. That is precisely what makes you heroes, Vorn replied. He turned to address the full council. I propose we formally recognize the crew of the Resilient Dawn. More importantly, I propose we reconsider our stance on humanity. Yes, they come from a death world. Yes, they are formidable. But they are also allies we should welcome, not fear. The council voted unanimously in favor. Over the next few days, word of the rescue spread through the coalition. The story of 5 humans facing down 20 Varkan raiders became legend. Ships across the sector heard about the Deathworlders who came to save the Quillen. But the story that spread furthest was simpler. Humans help. When a distress call sounds, when people are in danger, when the odds seem impossible, humans come. They don't ask for payment. They don't calculate the risk. They just help. On the 5th day, Syl approached Day in one of the station's observation decks. The young Quillen looked nervous but determined. Captain Day, I have made a decision. I want to visit Earth. Day was surprised. Earth? Why? Because I need to understand, Syl said. I need to see the world that made you. I need to feel its gravity, experience its weather, see its predators. Only then can I truly understand why humans are the way they are. Earth is dangerous, Day warned. Even for humans, it can be harsh. For a Quillen, I know the risks, Syl interrupted. But knowledge requires risk. Science requires courage. If I am to study humanity, to help my people understand you, I must go to the source. Day smiled. You're braver than you think, Syl. The Quillen might be fragile, but you have courage that matches any human's. I learned it from watching you, Syl said simply. The Resilient Dawn prepared to depart Coalition Station Harmony. The crew had been offered commendations, rewards, even a formal military escort for their next mission. Day declined most of it, accepting only a small bonus to repair the ship and resupply. As they walked toward their ship, Yuna spoke quietly. Captain, this is going to change things. Everyone knows about us now. About what humans can do. Is that bad? Hana asked. I don't know, Yuna admitted. Some species will fear us even more. Others might try to use us, expecting us to risk our lives in every dangerous situation. Then we'll deal with it, Jin said. The same way we always have. By doing what's right. Tay, still pale from his radiation exposure but recovering well, nodded agreement. We can't control how others see us. We can only control who we are and what we do. Day looked at his crew, his friends, and felt pride warm his chest. Tay's right. The galaxy can call us Deathworlders if they want. They can fear us, or admire us, or try to use us. But we know who we are. We're explorers. We're rescuers. We're people who help when help is needed, even if it's dangerous, Hana added. Especially if it's dangerous, Day corrected. Because that's when help matters most. They boarded the Resilient Dawn. As Hana began the launch sequence, Day took one last look at Coalition Station Harmony through the view screen. He saw dozens of species going about their lives, each one unique, each one valuable. Somewhere on that station, Elder Thel was telling the story of the rescue to anyone who would listen. Syl was preparing for his journey to Earth. The Quillan scientists were sharing what they had learned about humanity. And across the galaxy, raiders and pirates were hearing a new warning. Avoid stations if humans are nearby. The Deathworlders will come, and they don't lose. Where to next, Captain? Hana asked. Day pulled up the navigation charts. There were dozens of unexplored systems, hundreds of research opportunities, countless mysteries waiting to be solved. But there, in the corner of the display, was a small red indicator. Another distress call. Some cargo ship having engine trouble near an asteroid field. Nothing dramatic. Nothing dangerous. Just people who needed help. Day smiled. Set course for that distress signal, Hana. Really? It's not even an emergency. Probably just a routine repair. Doesn't matter, Day said. Someone needs help. We can provide it. That's enough reason. Hana smiled and began plotting the course. Jin checked the weapon systems out of habit. Tay reviewed the repair supplies. Yuna updated her medical inventory. They were just 5 humans on a small ship, heading toward people in trouble. Nothing special. Nothing heroic. Except to the people they would save, they were everything. The resilient Dawn jumped to FTL, leaving Coalition Station Harmony behind. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was starting to understand a simple truth. Yes, humans came from a death world. Yes, they were dangerous when they needed to be. But they were also the ones who came when you called for help. They were the ones who risked everything for strangers. They were the ones who chose kindness even when violence would be easier. And that choice, that simple, powerful choice, was what made Deathworlders into heroes. The stars stretched around them as they raced toward their next adventure, their next rescue, their next chance to show the galaxy what humans really were. Not monsters from a harsh world, just people who cared enough to help. And in a vast, often dangerous galaxy, that was exactly what everyone needed.